All right. Welcome everybody. Hope you all had a great spring break, wonderful spring break. We have Jose and Ellen with us today, and I'm wearing my prescription sunglasses because my my glasses, my normal glasses, I have the what do you call it, the transitions, and now they're starting they've started to wear to the point where it's pretty hard uh, to look at text sometimes. So now I'm back to wearing these prescription glasses. They're not that dark, which is cool, which is a good thing. Um, they're a little bit they're tinted, but they're clear. So I don't get I don't get those headaches from the other glasses. So I got to get new glasses. That's just what that's all about. So hope you're all doing well. How was your spring break?
Was all right. Got some gardening done. Didn't get to go fishing, but I got
Hmm.
some gardening done.
Oh, good. Oh, wow. Yeah. What are you growing?
Uh, I found Fresno chilies. I'm trying to get all my squash to grow, and then a lot of green beans and some peas and some tomatoes.
Uh-huh. Oh, cool, cool. Jose, how was your spring break?
It was good. Didn't do that much. It's just work.
This work?
Yeah.
Hmm. All right. Full time? Full time
Yeah.
work? Yeah. So pretty much you really didn't have a spring break.
No.
You just didn't have to attend classes. Yeah, I get that. All right. Well, I was out of town all week, so barely got back Sunday night. So it was cool. It was cool. Went to the Central Coast, stayed out there. I have a buddy who's got a house out there and gave us a room and got to hang out. So that was nice. We had to spend money on a hotel or anything. So yeah, we came back and you know, somewhat rested, but now we got to get back to the groove of things. So yeah, welcome to this is week 14 actually, and so this week into the class here.
I did have a question about this week.
Sure.
It says to do the exercise on page 412, but there isn't one on 412. There's one on 418.
Yeah, you know what? I just that was pointed out to me yesterday by a student. So it is 418, not 412.
Okay.
I think it was shown incorrectly on the digital version. So if you have a digital version of the text, I'm assuming that it's also 412, unless I misread it, and uh, then I would blame my other glasses because
Hmm.
uh, yeah, I think I've missed a few little little nuances in the reading. Made some little mistakes. So that's chapter 22,
Yeah.
getting and keeping attention.
We're all human. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, so it's not a big deal. I just wanted to make sure I got the right assignment.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just clarifying for the rest of the class because some may have the digital version of the
Yeah.
text. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that I got 412, if that was a mistake or not, because then that would mean, oh yeah, that was a mistake. That was a mistake on my part. So it is 418. I will change that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this week we're reading chapter 22, and chapter 22 um, deals with getting the attention of your readers, keeping the attention of your readers. It's kind of a cool little chapter. not really much going on, but a lot of stuff that sometimes gets overlooked. You know, titles, for example. You know, just think about the memoir, which I have right here. If it was titled different, like it's titled In My Father's Name, and the first thing that comes to mind is, you know, religious references. You know, I automatically think of religious references when I think of In My Father's Name. In fact, if you Google the book, if you Google In My Father's Name, you will get the book through a Google search, but you'll also get so many biblical religious references. Um, so, you know, that's kind of the effect that that we're given as readers. That, you know, there's something grandiose about this book here. You know, something grandiose about the the investigation. In regards to just like the way Arax writes it, it's very epic, right? It's kind of an epic. So, not saying that his book is biblical in that proportion, but there's an epic quality to the book. But then also with the Bible, you think of the Bible is an epic, obviously. So attention getting titles are important. Imagine if the memoir was called Investigating My Dad's Murder. You know, I don't know if that would get as many people wanting to buy the book. You know, I don't know, when you think of the title, My Father's Name, what comes to mind when you first got the book and before you even read it? You know, what came to mind, since we're talking about titles, in regards to the title? You
I
know?
don't know if I actually thought about it because I remember you explaining to the book what the book was about early on. So I didn't, think about it so much when I read the title.
I did probably a good amount of prefacing. It's probably added a little bit of a bias there. But Jose, what was your take on the when you first saw the title? You know, did anything come to mind? Did it remind you of something? Or
Honestly, I didn't. Same. I didn't even think about the title.
same idea. Yeah, you know, sometimes a title. It's interesting that the title didn't immediately grab you guys, but I think maybe because we talked about it somewhat before you read it, so that I'm sure that probably came to mind. But you know, authors pick their titles. They choose their titles um, mainly, you know, to draw attention, to get the right reader's attention, and that sort of thing. Um, the book itself is separated by sections that are titled. Blood on the Vine is part one. Part two is the town. You know, so part one, Blood on the Vine, has to do a lot with the history of Arax's family, right? Blood on the Vine, and also coming to America and farming and you know, all that encompasses. And then you get the town, and when you first see the town, you automatically think, what? This is about Arax is gonna like dive into Fresno, right? To Fresno, the politics and all of that, right? And you learn about, you know, basically how the town functioned and worked, and you know, in regards to that era, the 70s, right? And then then you get the last part, which is an act of decency, and it sounds like, you know, that's an interesting. What did you think of that part that's titled "An Act of Decency"? I mean, what were you expecting from that?
Um, I don't remember the title so much. I usually just go chapter by chapter.
Sure.
I don't pay much attention to the title of the chapter either. Honestly, I keep going. Okay, chapter 22. Okay, chapter 23. Okay, so that's just how I do it. I mean, I don't really stop to look at titles too much.
Mhm. So, yeah, well, just like in just future references, think about titles, how important they are. Um, your textbook does a really good job in terms of breaking down how we react to titles, as far as a puzzling statement can be a title, a provocative question can be a title, an intriguing allusion. All of these things can be titles. Like in my father's name to me is a puzzling statement. It's really interesting, um, because it reminds me that this is a story that's very dear and personal to the author, to Mark Arax. So yeah, so I don't want to dive too much into this chapter because we're just starting it this week. But
I finished it yesterday
did
afternoon, I think. Yeah. Chapter 22.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
read it yesterday.
it's definitely a short chapter. Yeah. So yeah, so you're reading chapter 22, and then you are doing the reflection journal. It's on 418, not 412. So I will change that. And then you're assigned an essay by, this is one of my favorite essays of all
I
time.
printed it. I haven't read it yet.
So
It's 19 pages on the printer.
it's a long one, yeah.
I figured I'd break it down over the course of 3 days or something like that.
Yeah, I think on Wednesday, or Thursday, we'll start maybe start reading it, a little bit of it at the beginning of class. But this essay right here is written by James Baldwin, and it's an essay about his father, but also the time and era that this essay takes place, which is the 50s. And so James Baldwin, wanted, he didn't want to become a preacher like his father. His father was a preacher. And he's very critical of his father. He finds some weakness there. And it really weighs on their relationship. So this is, in a weird way, it's similar to In My Father's Name, because Arax did kind of like, he had some relationship issues with his father to an extent. But Baldwin does here too. And it's all set in the midst of the um, uh, of these race riots in Harlem, back in the 50s. So it's a very tumultuous time personally and socially. So it's really beautifully well written. Um, and so yeah, I can't wait to start talking about it on Thursday, and then on Tuesday we'll talk about it some more next week. So, all right, so that's basically this week's assignments. I will post an assignment in 205, which I didn't get around to that, but that'll be due. I'll give you a couple extra days to complete that in 205. So I'll post that assignment after class today. So all right, so I think maybe we can start talking about the book.
I found the police corruption interesting.
Yeah.
And,
So
and that whole section on the police corruption in the book was very interesting. We don't think about law enforcement being corrupt. I mean, we know we see it in the movies and we see it randomly, but we don't think about it as being a major issue. We expect them to protect and serve. And,
yeah.
The downside is, and a lot of reason people don't trust cops is because there are so many of them that are corrupt.
Yeah, it definitely puts a damper on those who are not corrupt, because I mean there's a lot of good cops too, but there's certainly a corruption there, and there's been a long line of police corruption in Fresno for a long time, and even recently, there was a oh God, he was like the second in command to Dyer when Dyer was when Jerry Dyer was the chief of police. And I can't remember his name, African American gentleman who got busted for I think heroin possession and sales. So he gave him like 8 years. So there's that, and there's I remember catching a radio program, I think it was an NPR program, an interview where where the caller was talking about, or I think it was the guest who had brought up a writer from Philadelphia, and I should have wrote down the name of the author in the book, but it was a female, she wrote extensively about police corruption in the valley, in the Central Valley, specifically the Fresno police and the Fresno Sheriff's Department. And I cannot find that book or that interview for the life of me. But if I do, I want to get that book and see what it's about. But among the details that she mentioned in the interview was that in the foothills, or not in foothills, but in the national forest, there were huge marijuana plantations that the police and the sheriff's department knew about. Now, this is just off the record. This is just what I remember, what I recall from the interview. She didn't give any names, but she just said that there were that the sheriff's department knew about it, and I believe that even a couple of maybe a sheriff's deputy or a police officer was paid on the side to watch over these marijuana fields. Like, wow.
One of the reasons I left Squaw Valley is because of the amount of marijuana that's growing up there right now. Even I couldn't wait to get away from that place. You couldn't walk or drive anywhere without getting the smell of growing marijuana. So,
yeah, I believe it. Yeah, ARAX has an essay called "Highlands of Humboldt," which is in his book West of the West, which is a collection of essays on California, stories that are kind of untold under the radar, kind of in the spirit of in my father's name. But in this essay, he goes up to Humboldt. ARAX goes up to Humboldt, and I think he initially was there to do research on this on these hippies that were living out in Humboldt, and he was really curious about this commune that was still around since the 60s. They were still there, so he went out to do research on them, only to find out that there was something else brewing. So this hippie commune, they got around by selling marijuana. That's how they stayed afloat. And they pretty much kept it themselves, and they pretty much kept it organic. And then their kids, they were old enough to have kids who are older now. Well, those kids got involved in the marijuana growth industry, but in the corporate version of it. So a lot of the corporatizing of marijuana, medical marijuana, all of that, their kids got involved in that. And they got involved in it insofar as now it was corporatizing beyond medical marijuana, and now it was all about meth, and it was all about tainted marijuana. So their kids were getting really rich, buying up entire homes and communities, neighborhoods, buying lots of houses. Like they literally bought like a whole block full of houses, and they gutted every one of the houses to just leaving its foundation. And so what looks like a home was actually, you go inside, it's marijuana farm inside
Yeah.
the homes. And so really, mind-blowing essay, mind-blowing essay. And so, yeah, so that's something that happens in investigative reporting, is like these little happy surprises. And so obviously, ARAX initially was going to write about this hippie commune who were aging hippies, finds out something else, and his whole direction of the essay turns into something else. And so there was a connection there that their parents, the hippies, were disappointed in their children because they went the corporate route, which is this is his own little,
Yeah, it's kind of anti-hippie, really.
yeah. So yeah. So Jose, what'd you think about the book?
I haven't finished it, but so far what I have read, it's interesting. I didn't think about this, whatever it says in the book about the city Fresno. I find it interesting, and I was expecting like more about like the murder and stuff, the crime,
Yeah.
but it actually talks about like how it was in those times and how they migrate and a little backstory, and it makes it interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, we want to know more about that murder, right? But
Yeah.
why don't we get much about the murder revealed to us? Like the truth, or whatever is what I'm getting at.
I think what he's describing in there, I think it's more into like the reasons, like like how the police corrupt and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So
yeah.
I think it goes that way.
Alan, with your take on the on the chasing, trying to ARAX trying to chase down, trying to find the truth behind his father's murder, not really finding exactly what he's looking for, obviously. But what was your take on that journey there?
Well, I think a lot of what he put in the book as things that he stumbled across while trying to find his dad's killer. And, it's like a plant. Whenever you start at the stem, and it branches out so many different directions that you have to go and check in each one of those branches and stuff. And I think that's where he got sidetracked with, the police corruption, the different parts of people that he had looked up and chased down and all that stuff. As he went all over trying to find answers, but what he really got was more runaround, more unanswered questions than answered questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the city itself, if you're from Fresno, just trying to find the answer to a simple issue. Doesn't have to be about chasing anyone's murder down or anything like that. But if you want to go down to the city and you want to find, you want to get your, let's say, your birth certificate, you got to go through all these steps here, all these unnecessary steps, which is ridiculous, right? So I'm about to go down and to get my passport this week, and I find out that there's like 5 different offices that I could go to just to get a passport. So I'm like, okay, so this is really going to be an interesting thing. Hopefully I go the most efficient route. We all want to get things done. So this city, what I'm getting at is that this city it's just like any other city. The big cities are like this. Very hard to get things done. Very hard to get things done because sometimes it's hard to get the answers. People are trying to cover they call it CYA, cover your ass. Everybody's trying to use a language, but everybody's trying to do their job. And ARAX, in that respect, that's sort of what he comes into. Everyone's just trying to cover themselves. That's kind of my take, because he doesn't get the truth, right? He gets a lot of like, maybe so, yeah, maybe it happened like that, or I don't know. Doesn't get anything solid ever, ever, not even from his family. So it's like this perpetual maze. That he's involved in. So
I'm honestly surprised that he was willing to move his wife and daughter back here after his mom passed to
Yeah.
continue to the investigation, especially if he thought that there might be, people out to get him at
uh-huh.
that point. I was surprised he would risk his wife and daughter in such a way.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think he did that? Why do you think he would put his family at risk?
Well, I know he wanted answers, but at what cost do you get your answers? That's the
what
thing you
cost?
have to consider whenever you ask him questions.
Yeah. Do you think he knew? Do you think he knew that going in? Like, do you think that he knew, like, oh, this is going to be dangerous?
Well, yeah, that's why he had his wife and daughter when they rented that apartment, not use their actual names.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to ask you both a few questions. So just to get your take. So did you find Arax to be a likable narrator?
He was likable to a point, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff he put in there, I think he could have left out. And then, there are some things I would have liked to have known more about that weren't available.
Like what?
But well, he covered a lot of the police corruption, but he left a lot of what happened to some of those other people, that were in there. I mean, he covered the higher ups, but what about all the little guys that are going to become higher up? What happened to them? They're just going to go up the police chain ladder, and then they're going to be the new corrupt people.
Yeah.
So,
And
that club that he had established, that one police chief, the ring club or whatever it was, that all wore that ring to show that they were a part of the police chief's elite group.
Yeah.
What happened to them?
Right. Are they still around?
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, those are questions that maybe they do get answered, but were they? See, writing a book, you have to you leave a lot of stuff out. So maybe he did write about it, but maybe he couldn't include it for whatever reasons, or maybe it was too risky to write about those folks. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Possibility.
Yeah. Jose, what did you think? You think he was a likable narrator, or sympathetic in any way, or?
I think it's just a likable narrator. Honestly, I haven't read that much books to compare to, but the way I was reading it sounds great.
So how honest do you think? I mean, I think kind of touched upon this a little bit, but how honest do you think he was?
I'm sorry?
How honest do you think Arax was in this book?
I want to say like about 90% honest, because finally, for safety or for privacy, for like not saying a lot of stuff to not get those bad people mad.
Yeah. Okay.
Like changing probably names or things like that.
Yeah. Alan, how about yourself? How honest do you think the author was?
I would say he was pretty honest. I mean, there are some things he might have, embellished a little for narrative sake, but Um, for the most part, he was pretty honest with, as honest as he could be without bringing further unnecessary attention to himself. If I remember right, in the end of the book, he said he wanted to try to continue to stay in Fresno
Yeah.
and raise his family. So he's got to consider that as he's producing and publishing the book. If he's going to want to stay here, there's some things he has to omit for his own safety and the safety of his family.
Yeah, and just to give you an update on himself, well, so when he wrote this book, he was a reporter for the Los Angeles Times. Somewhere around early 2000s, like 2005 to 2009, he was let go. And primarily because investigative reporting wasn't paying the bills at the LA Times. So they got rid of a lot of LA Times reporters, and they wanted to go. It says my internet connection is unstable at the moment. Oh.
Okay, I thought it might have been mine. I've been having issues with Comcast the last couple of days. So.
Oh no, I got the little message here. It said my internet is unstable. So unfortunately.
Okay, because you froze and I wasn't sure whether whose end it was on. And my niece was trying to do her schoolwork earlier and she couldn't even get connected. So.
Yeah, I see what I understand what you mean. Yeah, when my wife was here at work, when she was working from home and I was working from home, our internet would go kaputs all the time. So yeah, and unfortunately, we live in a part of Fresno where we prefer AT&T, but AT&T doesn't come out here. So yeah, so we have Xfinity, which is so. Anyways, so as I was saying, ARAX, he was laid off from work between 2005 to 2009, laid off by the LA Times. He was writing investigative. He was an investigative reporter at that time and did some really good work. He published couple of stories in the LA Times, kind of like their Sunday supplement. So back in the day, when newspapers were really a big thing, you would get a nice supplement from like a nice little magazine from like the LA Times, New York Times had one too. Fresno Bee Fresno Bee would have like their spotlight, but that was like a little bit different. And so you would get to read like really great essays by some of their best reporters. So ARAX had a couple of pieces published in the LA Times in their supplement. And so, he wrote a story about Zankou chicken, which is this Mediterranean chicken chain down in LA, and the essay is called Legend of Zankou, and it's about the father who killed himself and killed his wife. It's just a really crazy, wild story. Zankou's chicken's still around, and it's supposed to be pretty good. Anyways, that story gave him like some celebrity. Well, he packed up his bags and left LA, and so he actually went back to LA. We're kind of was doing the back and forth deal. Then he was let go, but he had all these stories from his investigative journals and reportings and whatnot. Came out with another book called West of the West, and that came out in 2009. So he's been writing pretty much full time since then. Doesn't really write for a newspaper or anything, but he's more of a freelancer. So, so that's kind of what he's doing now. So writing this book actually changed him, changed his career. It changed his career path. So I believe he's still in Fresno, and I'm gonna see if I can try to get a hold of him before the end of the semester, and we can bring him in on Zoom. So let's see. Are there any? So let's see. Let's see. Were there any parts that were relatable to you, or the author's experience? Anything that kind of evoked a memory of some sort? Given that this is a Fresno book.
Mm, well, I remember back in, I think it was 92, 91. I was a kid. Uh, we were chased out of Fresno by uh, possible gang members poking guns out the window at us one afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I thought to myself, why isn't there any law enforcement? Why isn't nothing happening? They followed us all the way out to Academy Avenue that goes into Sanger, constantly going past us and poking that gun out the window at us. You know, I remember mom and dad were scared. My little sister was crying, and I'm trying to peek out the window. I keep getting told to get down, but you know, and I just thought to myself, Fresno's a pretty crazy place at times.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Jose, how about yourself? I mean, were there any relatable moments in the book for you?
Oh, nothing relatable or any like memories like that because I I haven't lived in Fresno, but I'm just curious about some locations that he talks about.
Yeah.
I'm just curious where they at.
Like which locations?
Like where the apartments where the bar was.
For the bar?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I kind of googled it and found some news articles, just things like that. It's just where the old church used to be, their house. But that's about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe the church is in downtown somewhere.
Yeah, my sister had a car accident right in front of that church
Is
here
that
about
right?
6-8 months ago.
Wow. So I'm gonna do kind of a Google Maps kind of search to give you all an idea of where the bar was located. Let's see the maps here. I should do Google Maps. I don't have the exact address. Okay, so this is the part of town where we're talking about. So as you can see here, this is the 99. This is Clinton in 99, if you can visualize that. And then right after 99 is Vallarta Supermarket. There's a Mexican market now. And there's the Panda Express. And let's see, right over here is the Pizza Hut. And over right about here, this is like across the street, by the way, across Weber. In the same parking lot where the Pizza Hut is, there was a bar. It was a Texas bar. It was a Tejano bar. I think it was probably like a country bar early on initially. Then in the 90s and 2000s, it became a Mexican, like a Tejano bar where they play a lot of Tex-Mex music. And one of my friends, his parents used to dance there. Well, that was the bar that was called the Eras Apartments. So if you recall a big old boot in front, like a big old boot as a sign, that's where the bar was. So it's like right there in that part of right off of Weber, right across the freeway from Clinton, So
Is the building still there?
I don't think it is. I think it was torn down. Yeah, because I was by there earlier. What was it, like a couple of days ago? As a matter of fact, a couple of days ago I was right by there, and I don't remember seeing the bar. So I think it might have been torn down already. So it's all new. Like that whole area is new now. There's like a bunch of new. There's a Panda Express, there's a Starbucks. So it's all kind of new stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot going. And it's kind of a weird intersection. It's kind of crooked. It looks kind of crooked. So,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So that's not too far from City College, but where that took place. So, yeah. Let's see.
Did you know they're redoing the Fresno Motel?
A
It's gonna
Fresno
be
Motel?
it's gonna be a low income apartment, uh, low income housing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I used to go over there and sit and look at the building. I always wondered what it looked like inside. I guess it was built and completed in 1890 some or 1913. They started production in 1890 on it. So I did a
Wow.
little research on it because I love old architecture and old buildings. So
A good way of finding out the history of an area is you can research the deed of the property. Every property has a deed, and in that deed you can read about the history, about uh, who lived there, you know, just pretty much everything, all the way back as far back as property was available.
hmm,
So they're over there off of Fruit and Ashland area, which is Old Fig Garden. In that area, there's an empty lot, and actually that empty lot is now kind of like it's been like this for years. It's been empty for years, but it's kind of like a makeshift BMX thing, where kids go there and ride their BMX bikes and jump the
hmm.
hills and stuff like that. Well, that used to be a school. It was a school for um, I want to say for certain Native Americans and Mexican Americans, and mainly because, and it was also kind of like I believe it was also a track housing for poor families, for poor minorities. Really tiny piece of land, so you can imagine how small that school was. Probably a trailer. Um, well, anyways, in Old Fig Garden, it was written in the deed that certain people, I believe it said Mexicans. It literally said Mexicans could not be in that part of Fresno after 5 o'clock. Yeah,
Hmm.
and if you do you think you want to? Why do you think it said after 5? Why do you think it was so specific about 5 o'clock?
Um, well, that's usually when the sun started to go down. They couldn't really work in the fields anymore.
Yeah.
So that's when they want to, most people want to unwind with a beer or something.
Mhm.
And so maybe they didn't want a bunch of people hanging around out there drinking beers or so.
Yeah, and there's a little bit more to it. So, not too far from Old Fig Garden is also Van Ness Extension. That's Ness Extension. Some beautiful homes, and some of them are almost like mini mansions. Well, the people who worked these homes, as maids, as cooks, or whatever, as gardeners, they worked during those 9 to 5, during that 9 to 5 shift, and then after 5 o'clock they had to leave. They were no longer wanted. They were no longer needed. So it was written into law. So you could actually look up that old law um, from back in the day. This is like probably going way back. I want to say as late as the 40s.
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of these little laws and stuff that we don't even know about. It's like a whole nother history. It's pretty. It's quite sad. It's quite sad and quite surprising, quite depressing, but that's the kind of stuff you find when you go out there with research, so.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts about the book? And
Um, I don't. I would like to know if who actually did it.
yeah,
Honestly.
unfortunately, they're gone, right? They're
Yeah.
they're all dying off. So
Yeah, it's one of those cold cases that's never going to get solved.
yeah, yeah. Let me pause real quick. I gotta actually visit the restroom real quick.
Okay.
So let me pause and I'll be right back. Okay, so before I get into the introducing the final essay, so what we're gonna ultimately do with this book right here, during the final week, uh, you'll I'm gonna assign kind of like a final, kind of an informal essay that's gonna count as your final exam. And I'm not going to worry about structure or anything like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you all watch a film called "Kill the Messenger," and it's a story about a journalist from San Jose who discovers some harsh realities, some harsh truths, while uncovering reporting on the drug trade during the mid '80s to through the mid to late '90s, and so it's called "Kill the Messenger." So that film, you can rent it through YouTube for like $3.99 or $2.99. I also have a copy of the video, so I can leave it at the library if anyone needs to check it out. So, so I will release that assignment, the final assignment during the final week of class, and you'll have like that final week to complete the assignment through the 20th. And that video, I'll post a video, like I'll announce that video and where to get that access and stuff like that, like the week before. So basically, what you're going to be doing is sort of comparing and contrasting the different ways both ARAX and Gary Webb conducts their investigative journalism. So that's mainly what I'm looking for.
How long is the essay?
I'm not going to give any page requirement for this. This is just, no page requirement, but complete as answer the assignment fully. Yeah, that's mainly what I'm looking for. Complete the assignment fully. It should be at least 2 to 3 pages if you're going to answer the assignment fully. So I'm still kind of working on that prompt there. So yeah. So, but the prompt won't be released until the last week of school, the very last week of school.
Okay. When is the last week of school?
That being the May 16th that week.
Really?
So yeah.
I thought it was all the way into June.
No. We last day of class is the 20th.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna have that essay and our 8-page essay due.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so let's see. Let's go ahead and The remainder of time, the last thing to cover is just want to kind of dive into the essay, essay number 3. I wish we had more time.
Yeah,
Alan, I really,
I honestly thought that school went all the way until June. So,
oh no, May 20th. Yeah. Okay, so here it is right here. This is an investigative essay in which you're going to, it's like a research essay, but it's a little bit, there's essentially it's what it is. Essentially, it's a longer version of essay number 2, except for you're looking at a wide variety of different types of sources as opposed to a couple of different your traditional sources. So you're going to be asked to dive into non-traditional sources, and I'll explain that. So why am I being asked to write an investigative report? You may not plan on becoming a journalist. However, you are likely curious about the things that matter to you and probably recognize the value in credible information. Whether you're trying to figure out which car to buy, which major to choose, or how to make sense of the news, you are investigating evidence. Distinguishing between facts and opinions is a crucial skill in college, and more importantly, beyond it. So essentially, we're going to take our rhetorical analysis strategies that we've learned over the course of the semester, specifically rhetorical situations like ethos, pathos, and logos. This is going to come back. And you're going to use those aspects, those things that you've acquired, and to research an issue that a current event issue that is important to you. And let me go into the overview real quick. For this assignment, you will be writing an investigative report of a current event. An investigative report involves research, and report serves to highlight the author's expertise with the purpose of informing or educating an audience. Okay. You will choose a current event that interests you and which is receiving wide media coverage. So we're looking for events that are topical, events that are current in the moment, events that the research is kind of changing, sometimes day to day, sometimes even minute to minute, depending on what the story is. But the story should be a current event. You'll then go ahead.
speaking of that, I read a thing on Yahoo today that several congressmen and higher ups are actually being investigated for human trafficking.
Oh,
And paying, people almost low wages or barely anything to work for them and stuff.
yeah.
So
That definitely sounds like a topic that would certainly be one to consider for this essay, for sure.
okay.
So you'll choose a current event, maybe that's the current event. You'll then collect a variety of texts that cover the event. So I want you to try to find sources that are from a wide plethora of different types of sources. They could be from editorial posts, like an op-ed from a newspaper, a blog post, a pundit's monologue, which is, you can find those anywhere. That could be a rant on Twitter. It could be a response to a op-ed. It could be a pundit's monologue. Could certainly be a talking head from one of the news sources that are out there, etc. It could be a YouTube clip. It could be I mean, you can get these sources pretty much anywhere. That's a source. So what I'm looking for is, try to find sources that are varied. So more to that in just a bit. Next, you will evaluate the merits, credentials, biases, strengths, and failings of each. So this is where you're going to vet the source itself. Is this a credible source? Where does the source where is the source wrong? Where do you think that or what do you think is valuable for the source in regards to the story? In what ways is pretty much in what ways is the source credible to the story that you're following or to the current event you're writing about? Next, you will evaluate. Yeah. Let's see. Finally, you will write a report which clarifies how biases, report, reasoning, genres, and especially the rhetorical situations surrounding the text impact the ways in which the event has been portrayed. So yeah, so you're so you're going to be evaluating the sources on how they are presenting the event and how they're reporting on the event. So you're almost reporting on what's being reported. What are the implications of these observations for your future investigations of evidence? So, how do these, in other words, how does the reporting of what's out there, how does that impact your own research? How does it, how does it make, how does what's out there influence your thinking behind the current event issue? So here's some of the nuts and bolts. Your investigative report should be 7 to 8 pages, double space pages, plus rhetorical notes. So these are basically just your notes that you're writing on the side. This could be an outline. This could be free writing, your own mental notes. I do want you to write as you write. In other words, I do want you to, respond to articles. If you find an article that's interesting, write a short little paragraph about that article. Why do you think it's interesting? How do you think it's going to fit in and tie in with your essay? So so for this part, the rhetorical notes, research notes, they're very loose. They're very they're basically your playground, if you will. Basically, consider your playground of ideas. Okay, so I do want you to include those as well, and that will count towards the page count. So that'll count towards the pages 9 and 10, which is required for this essay here. The essay should be tailored to a specific audience. So example, not simply multimodal, but tech block readers, that's just an example right there. Formatted appropriately to the corresponding audience medium, using citation, including in-text and a works cited page, regardless of audience or medium.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So with the notes, the rhetorical notes and the do you want those included after the works cited page? Do you want them included before the main body of the essay, or
After
after the works cited?
Yeah, after the works.
Okay.
Okay, so here are the elements of the investigative report that you should include Select a current event that interests you, a current event that has significant media coverage in the past 12 months. So I really want you to keep this as recent as possible. Okay, so it's very important to that because it's very important to pick an issue that's current, so that way you can, so that way the information is going to be ongoing. You know, it's just like, you know, for example, the COVID, for example, that information is current, ongoing, almost like to the minute, almost to the second sometimes, right? That could, you know, that could be an example, but you would have to have an angle just like anything else. My recommendation is don't write an essay about COVID. Write an essay about an aspect of COVID. Maybe it's the mask mandates. Maybe it's
Vaccine issue.
Vaccine issues. COVID in the schools. Make it specific, so that way, because if it's too general, there's going to be too much to research. So you want to make it you want to make it specific. Yeah, so you can find that, you know, just like when, you know, a lot of you like to write about the environment. Okay, well, what about the environment, right? There's so much to the environment that's out there. I mean, anything can be an environment. My living room is an environment. So what are we talking about environment? Are we talking about, you know, oceanic environment, mountains? Are we talking about weather? Are we talking about, you know, the urban cities and whatnot? You know?
The ups and downs of electric vehicles on environment.
That would be perfect. Yeah, yeah. Electric vehicles. You know, maybe you want to write about the Elon Musk story. You know, his, you know, what he's trying to do. You know, he owns Tesla, and so he wants to buy Twitter.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting story in itself. So, so choose an audience you want to communicate with about this event. Is your audience is this a college level audience? Maybe you're writing about the rising cost of textbooks, okay? Or maybe you're writing about tuition, or about the lack of educational opportunities, you know, in that regard. Maybe your community is your audience, and that could be the city, the state. It could be the city council. Religious political organizations can be part of that audience. So these are all different types of audiences. Maybe it's one issue that impacts that kind of, some of these audiences are going to overlap. So like community and college can easily overlap. They're building a parking garage behind City College. That's going to impact the community because it's cutting into an actual neighborhood. And then you have the issue of gentrification that's from that. So maybe your essay is about gentrification in Fresno or elsewhere. I don't know what city or town you live in.
Did you know they were building a college over next to Jensen Avenue?
Yes.
Yeah, that's like within walking distance of me.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. That's a city. Yeah, it's a City College extension, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I've been watching them build it every time I go by there.
Let's see, workplace example. You know, the workplace is another audience. Multimodal meaning multi platforms. That's basically what that means. Specific block readers, New York Times readers, New Yorker readers, YouTube subscribers, people who are in that tech bubble, wherever you go to find tech news, you know. So yeah, just multimodal means multi-platform. Gather 6 texts from 6 different genres if you can. And I get it. There might not be that. There might not be that many, but try to shoot for this. But what I'm looking for mainly is is you varying your sources, not just relying on news websites, or not just relying um, on the library databases, but to varying your approach. And some of the examples include YouTube videos, tweets, social media posts, news articles, books, or a book review, or a website. And when you're citing these different types of texts, there are different rules on citing. For example, there's MLA rules for citing YouTube videos, for citing websites. So, and we'll review that process as well. So, number 4, we're not gonna worry about number 4 because we are online and it's kind of tough to do this.
Yeah.
There's so many people on so many different schedules. So don't worry about number 4. Number 5, let your thoughts and ideas stew for a while. So in other words, think about your topic. Maybe do some initial research. If you have an issue that you're interested in, start paying attention to that issue. Maybe probably the easiest way to go about that is going on to YouTube and just doing a search to see what's out there. Just start watching videos on the fly, and you just want to see what's out there. Talk with people. Talk about it with friends, with neighbors, with teachers, with other classmates, with coworkers, and take stabs at identifying patterns across the categories. In other words, what are people thinking in regards to the issue? That's going to be important too. That's going to be key because that's part of your audience. So, what are other people thinking? This can help you in terms of finding a way to present the research, your findings. What are other people saying? What are their opinions about this issue? Heck, if you want to jump on one of your social media platforms and do a survey, you're more than welcome to do that. And you can actually use that as evidence. I've seen, I'm on Twitter and I see, and I see these surveys all the time. They're kind of like, sometimes they're interesting and sometimes they're kind of full of it, but you can definitely use a survey as part of your research. Especially the key to a survey is you want to try to reach out to as many different. It's a little tough, but you want to try to reach out to a variety of people, and you don't want to have enough so that you can say, "Wow, this is a sizable survey," and I think we can get an idea of what everyone's thinking about this issue. So, plus there's tons of surveys out there that you can research on your own, find out what people are thinking and whatnot. 6, list some of the patterns you see across the columns. I'll talk about this later, but this is mainly what you want to do in your research. You want to start to see patterns in your research that you're conducting. How are people reacting to the issue? What kind of laws are being passed? What are the experts saying? What are politicians saying about this issue? So what seems to be the pulse of the issue? Okay. And then now to help you visualize the context of this rhetorical situation, which you're writing, draw a picture of it. You don't necessarily have to draw a picture, but these are just helpful to you, ideas to consider as you're writing the essay. So you don't necessarily have to do these. I should put recommended, but these ideas could help you in terms of doing that preliminary research draw some conclusions about how the elements you analyze impacted the way this current event has been presented in public discourse. You might want to choose to focus on one element, or you might choose to discuss them all. I would not do that. I would choose one element, stick to it. For example, with the vaccine with COVID, stick to vaccines or stick to mask mandates. Stick to one specific element. You don't want to choose them all. Trust me. Use all of these resources together. So pretty much, so when you're doing your research and you're bringing in your research, what is it saying ultimately about the problem? That's kind of like mainly what you're getting to is, what is, what are you learning from the sources in regards to the issue itself? So, any questions at this point?
Not at the moment.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna pause here because the rest is kind of a bit lengthy, but a lot of it is mainly just a lot of different tidbits to consider as you're writing the essay. Okay. And if you have any questions, I can go over these on Thursday.
Okay.
So plus I have an appointment. So I'm gonna have to put it out right now. So yeah, so please feel free to read the rest of it. I know it's a little bit lengthy, but a lot of the information that's presented here that looks lengthy are actually just ways to help you write this investigative essay. So, and if you have any other questions, please let me know.
Okay.
But ultimately, just one last thing, it's worth 60 points and it's due on May 16th, but I'm going to keep it open. I'm going to keep that open. More than likely, I'll keep it open probably through yeah, I think I already do have it open. Yeah, so I'm keeping it open through May 18th, which is Wednesday, May 18th. So yeah. That's that. Any additional questions or are we good?
I think we should be good. What was the name of that movie again? To Kill a Mocking or To Kill the Messenger?
Kill the messenger. Kill the
Okay.
messenger. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna go through and order it on eBay, I think today.
Oh, okay.
That
Cool.
way I can pause it, watch it, rewatch it, but not have to worry about, deadlines, rental expirations or.
Sure. Yeah. Kill the messenger with Jeremy Renner. Kill the messenger. There it is right here. Came out, I believe, in like 2009, I believe. It's a really good film. Really good film. So you can buy it online for $10, or you could rent it. Or no, you could buy for $10. You could rent it for about $3. $3.99. You could rent it. So
Well, I prefer physical media when it comes to buying. I don't really like digital because anything could happen to a digital library. They could take it off the thing, or you could get banned somehow.
yeah, yeah.
With physical, it sits on your shelf. You can access it whenever you want. 5 minutes from now, 50 years from now, it's yours.
Well, I will put an announcement noting, get the video and watch it before the last week of school. So look out for that announcement. All right. Any final questions before we close up shop here?
No, I can't think of any.
Right. Jose, how about yourself?
Well, just a question regarding the first essay regarding the extra credit. I think I sent you a message, but didn't get a response back. Or I don't know if you talked about it already.
Okay, so that you talk about like the revision of an essay?
No, it was the extra, yeah, the extra credit that I contact with the, what's her name? The
Oh,
one,
right. The a contact with the tutorial with the tutor?
yeah, yeah.
I could certainly offer that again as well. You are interested.
Yeah, my question is, how was it applied on the first one? I didn't see any difference, or I didn't see where was applied.
Oh, okay. So you did okay, so you did it. You did the extra credit. I'll apply it at the end of the semester. So
Oh, okay.
Okay. I just noticed my grade. I was just curious about that too, now that he brought it up. Because I went into the college campus to that writing center.
Mhm.
And then I also included an extra reference outside of the essay, which you said you might also consider giving a little bit of extra credit for.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, yeah. Let me get back to you on that. The extra reference? I'm not.
yeah, if you used a source outside of the essay for the works cited, you said you
Okay.
might consider giving a little credit for the extra credit for that too.
Okay, I don't recall saying that, but I'm sure I did, but I will definitely honor that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll definitely honor that. All righty, so and that goes for everyone else. If you did the extra credit, I will honor that extra credit. So all righty. So any other questions? If not, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video and let's have a great rest of your day.
All right. You too. Have a good one.
You too.